Hey everybody, welcome back to Dreamseed VR. I'm your host Sarah Finn, and today I have an extraordinary special episode for you. I've been working on this one for well over a year. So this is going to be dovetailing with a special series I'm creating on techniques for lucid dreaming. And this is a hybrid between the first chapter of that workshop series and the story of my own personal experiences with lucid dreaming and their relationship to virtual reality. Now you might be thinking, what do those two things have anything to do with each other? Well, ironically enough, not only have my own personal experiences highlighted that there is indeed a very strong connection, but we also have some really interesting scientific evidence that's come out over the past few years that indicates that virtual reality does indeed impact lucid dreaming. So we're going to go ahead and explore those connections between the developments in VR and the implications for lucid dreaming. This is also available as an article on Medium if you would prefer to read it and have access to it in text form later on. So I believe that utilizing virtual reality not only increases dream recall, but also lucidity, as it integrates a new complex synthesis of your awareness of whether or not your environment is an artistic or a mental construct. When you're in a virtual state, your brain is constantly reminding you you're in VR. This is a construct, it's artistic, it's not baseline reality, it's not real. And that mechanism of your brain constantly checking reality is very similar to something that's described in the Richard Linklater classic film Waking Life, where he invites you through dialogue of his characters to check your reality on a consistent basis with turning on a light, checking a clock, a bunch of different techniques to sort of see if there's any little glitch that might give away whether or not you are in a mental construct, which would be the dream state. So I've included a couple different articles that make reference to these scientific studies. It's really cool. We've got Virtual Reality Encourages Gamers to Have Lucid Dreams from The Atlantic. And we also have Lucid Dreaming After Playing VR. And that is through reddit.com, and it's an article referring to the Vive. We also have Virtual Reality Training of Lucid Dreaming, Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society B, Biological Sciences, and that's royalsocietypublishing.org. So when I started my personal journey with VR in 2018, I already had a really colorful, whimsical, and deeply mystical dream life. This had been, since I was nearly 5 years old. Although I wasn't very good at lucidity. Oftentimes when I became aware that I was dreaming, it was much like realizing I was in a video game and that it wasn't authentic reality. And the edges of the dreamscape were much like the edges of what the coder had programmed. And this awareness was oftentimes disappointing, and it would pop the dream state. I didn't realize on a fundamental level if it was me that was coding the dream, even subconsciously. But after using virtual reality for a number of weeks, I started noticing that I became better at recognizing when I was in a dream. And when I made these realizations, because I had been spending so much time in VR art programs, painting my own worlds and realities, that the realization that it wasn't waking life was no longer disappointing. And I wasn't popping the dream states as often anymore. Soon, I was able to start manipulating the environment and engaging with the dream characters with this new awareness that they were actually manifestations of aspects of my consciousness. And I was able to start using my dreams as even a kind of new psychotherapy where I could resolve long, deep-seated traumas and other psychological issues that had stayed with me for years in my subconscious. A lot of these things I found out later on are very similar to many of the practices in Tibetan dream yoga. I'm actually going to be going into that in quite a bit of depth in the future, which I'm really excited to share with you. Eventually, these lucid dreams evolved and became a sort of dream academy where the characters themselves already knew that I was lucid. Many of them I would call hyperdimensional, and they were transcendent in the dreams, and they lovingly presented new challenges and tasks for me to grow my skill set within the dream worlds. And if you continue with us in the series, I will do a lot of really cool story time and tell you some of the epic adventures and crazy dream lessons that I've been taught throughout that Dream Academy. So I wanted to share with you today the basics of how to start achieving lucidity, and in hopes that soon I can start sharing with you some of the deeper lessons that I've learned. Yeah, it's so surreal to me to share this with you because a lot of it initially started with a dream in which I was actually teaching this workshop, and I approached myself from a third person perspective and looked over my own shoulder and witnessed one of the exercises that I'm going to walk you through later on in the series. So yes, this is real, and we're going there. We're going to cover some of the basic techniques for achieving lucidity. These will take time, so be easy on yourself. Don't go in with grand expectations overnight. The effort is worthwhile. Trust me, it's going to be beautiful, and so just enjoy the ride for yourself at each phase. Some of the different tools and techniques that we're going to be covering in this beginning chapter include the use of essential oils, as well as herbs and supplements, a technique called WILD, which stands for Wake-Induced Lucid Dreaming, and we're also going to cover how to cope with sleep paralysis and reality checks. So to begin with, we're going to cover essential oils. This is one of my favorite hacks that I actually came across by accident, organically, that initiated the deepening of my relationship to lucidity. It was about a year into my VR artistic journey. That was probably about 2019. And I discovered that essential oils can influence dream states. So you can use your sense of smell to remind yourself what state of consciousness that you're in. Before bed, you can anoint yourself with a specific essential oil blend that you only wear before bed. That way, when you're dreaming and you smell this oil, it'll be a visceral reminder that you are in fact dreaming. I personally recommend a really awesome blend of oils. I'll just show you a picture of it right here. It's from doTERRA that goes under the name Console, and it has several different oils within this blend that are actually directly referenced in the literature as being significant for encouraging lucid dreaming. So I've gone ahead and included a link. This is not sponsored at all. It's just a tool I wanted to make available to you. It's what I personally use because it has so many of the already known oils that encourage lucid dreaming. So one summer in the 19th century, a lucid dream researcher, Marquis de Harvey de Saint-Denis, took a bottle of an unfamiliar scent on his travels to France. When he whiffed his scent-laden handkerchief later that day, making an unconscious and emotional connection between the French countryside and his chosen scent. On returning home, he put the bottle away, out of sight and out of smell. So his cunning plan was to have a servant sprinkle a few drops of the scent on his pillow at night. And lo and behold, Saint Denis recorded dreams that took place at his vacation spot, the mountains of Ardèche. So how did he program his dreams with smell? Smells are processed in the brain's limbic system, an area that's closely associated with memory and emotion. So even though the smell isn't a primary sense for humans, a little whiff can invoke some really powerful emotions. We also know that our dreams are emotional realms, a place where we can express strong urges and unresolved feelings from our waking life. And anything that shapes our emotions can shape our dreams. Powerful essential oils that are known to enhance and promote lucidity in sleep include lavender, mugwort, rose, helichrysum, clary sage, sandalwood, anise, palo santo, patchouli, clove, rosemary, peppermint, valerian, jasmine, agarwood, blue lotus, frankincense, angelica root, chamomile, and lemon balm. A study related to those essential oils and dreaming is listed in that Medium article if you want to go ahead and reference the text there. So I'm also going to cover today some of the herbs and supplements that are useful for lucid dreaming. So here's a list that are known for their various qualities of sleep as well as dreaming. Be sure to do your own research regarding this part and talk to your physician if you need to, and make sure that these are good options for you. Everybody's body chemistry is different, and herbs are really powerful and they can interact with various medications. So this is why it's really important to talk to your general practitioner about this before you pick up an herbal or dietary supplement and add it to your routine. To begin with, we have 5-hydroxytryptophan, which promotes relaxation and sleep. This one's hard to say, you guys. Calea zacatechichi, which is known as a dream herb that increases dream clarity and vividness. We have at number 3 the African dream herb, which is known for its ability to induce unusual dream states. Number 4 is the blue lotus. I love this one. Very relaxing and calming effect. It's particularly good as a stress reliever, and it's just great for bedtime too. At number 5, we have Huperzine A, which is a clinically verified lucid dream pill enhancing dreaming capabilities. At number 6, we have the Devil's Claw, which induces dreaming as well as treating inflammation and pain. At number 7, we have Ginkgo biloba, which is a memory enhancer that improves dream recall and brain boost. And then we have at number 8, guayusa, which sharpens our senses during the day as well as night. At number 9, we have the wild asparagus root, which is known as a spirit herb. It ignites the subconscious during sleep and is a calming aid for meditation. At number 10, we have clary sage, which aids to create multiple dreams in deep sleep. At number 11, we have passion flower, which improves sleep quality and is an effective insomnia treatment. Number 12 is lemon balm, which is a sedative, has a calming effect, and improves the length and the quality of sleep. 13 is chamomile. It helps for a better, deeper, and more restful sleep, and it is associated with treating insomnia. Number 14 is peppermint. It's a muscle relaxant. It aids for peaceful sleep and supports dream vividness. Number 15 is burdock. It's effective in reducing nightmares and enhances positive dreams. Number 16 is DMAE supplement. It helps with vivid dreams and to move from vividness to lucidity with reality checks. So we're going to go ahead and next talk about the wild technique. Wild allows you to let your body to fall asleep while your mind should still stay awake. This is the result of you are remaining absolutely still, which allows the brain to think that you're asleep, and you are not letting your mind fall asleep. It might sound kind of challenging and it might take some practice, but you don't have to be an advanced lucid dreamer in order to use this technique. Complete relaxation, but staying conscious is an important element in this technique working. I personally find the falling asleep to lectures is especially useful for this. Also, having a delicious soothing tea before bed is also really useful for inducing the relaxation aspect. There are 3 especially effective times when you can attempt the wild technique. The first one is going to be when you're taking a nap. So during the day, if you didn't get enough sleep the previous night, you can try to use wild during a nap. Your body will be tired, so that'll make it easier to shut down, whereas you should keep your mind active as you fall asleep. Keep reminding yourself that you're taking a nap, so you'll remember when you start to dream that you're in fact sleeping. So the second time that is useful to try this technique is when you go to bed at a normal hour. So when you go to bed, simply start to observe and witness the hypnagogic hallucinations as you let your body relax into pseudo meditation. And the third time that it's useful to try this technique is in the morning. I also use this one quite frequently. So you can try this technique in the morning when you wake up about an hour or 2 before you normally would. Stay awake for about 5 minutes or so, but don't move a whole lot because that'll trigger biological processes that wake your brain up more. To make this technique useful, you should try to interrupt your sleep cycle and wake up after about 5 to 6 hours of sleep. So this is also known as the DEILD technique, the Dream Exit Induced Lucid Dreaming technique. It's similar to wild, but it can be done only after a few hours of sleep, as it takes advantage of the physiology of the previous sleep cycle. So wake-induced lucid dreaming technique, wild, is step 1. You're going to lay on your back and try to relax. You're going to lay down as comfortably as possible. Be sure not to move at all. Do all of your lovely before bed rituals Whether that's tea or stretching, bath time, any other useful muscle memory, body-oriented self-care rituals, have a routine like this, and it'll actually help your dream recall over time. The best sleeping position for this method is going to be on your back, even if you don't normally sleep that way. Be sure to really sink into the relaxation and not move. This part's vital for the physiological effects. Breathe in deeply and slowly. Completely free your mind and focus on the darkness of your closed eyes. If you have thoughts, allow them to happen and then let them go. Don't stress out about them and remind yourself that you can think of them later. The first step of this should take about 10 to 20 minutes. Do your best not to actually think about time. Just take it at the natural pace and make sure that you completely relax. That's the most important factor with this. As you're moving through this and starting to enter into the second step and phase, you're going to notice you might have auditory or visual hallucinations. These are called hypnagogic images. They are a signal of a transitional state from wakefulness to sleep. Like I mentioned, they oftentimes have sounds and visions and even body sensations. So you're going to observe this state and use it as an opportunity to remain conscious. It's sort of like a free mystical experience. This is a really cool state of consciousness. Do you see faces? Do you see flowing shapes? Do you see geometry? This is one of my favorite parts of the whole process. So really relish that moment and treat it like a gift. The more you relax and let go, the more the images will flow. You can use this unique technique to prepare your mind for the freeform experience that'll follow in your dream state. And if you want to direct your dream, now is a good time to sort of seed your mind with the concepts that you want to encounter in your dream. So step 3 is going to be as you move from hypnagogia into a more substantiated dream state. You want to take advantage of the hypnagogia and use it to infuse your will into the dream scene. You want to influence it with the concepts and themes and motifs. Or you might want to open yourself up to the subconscious to show you what you need to observe or work on in a more dynamic and uncontrolled way. So start cultivating in your mind the aspects you want to see in the dream landscape. It's easy to start with just choosing a simple setting for the dream. Something slow. You don't want it to be overly complex in elements. Something like the woods or a beach or a field of flowers. Those are some nice suggestions. As this environment comes into resolution, you want to imagine yourself populating it. You want to sort of like use your body as like an avatar and really like bring yourself into that place and immerse yourself in that environment. Make sure that you look down at your hands. This is going to be a useful way to ground that sense of presence in the dream environment. And next, you want to look further down at your feet. You want to connect with this dream body for a moment and really solidify your signal in this new place. From there, you want to try to move around. You may find that if you're lucid, you may float a little bit more than walk. That's just what I find in my personal experience. So you want to try to ground yourself or influence your momentum in whichever way is most effective for you. So the 5th step is going to be stabilizing the lucid dream. In the beginning, you may have an unstable lucidity. It's completely normal and it's not anything to be worried about. Like I said, these techniques take time and practice. Really just enjoy the ride, enjoy your exploration of these techniques. Practice is going to be the only way to train your mind to remain calm when you realize that you're in a lucid dream, because that abrupt surprise can often, like I said, pop the dream state. It'll pop it like a soap bubble. The more consistent you are, the more these neural networks are going to be solidifying themselves in your connectome. Sometimes it's useful to pick something that you want to influence. Like I said, start small. So that could be something as simple as a color or a shape. It could be something like what you're wearing or what you want to look like, and try to influence and change that thing. Or maybe even move onto things like architecture or the environment. Now that we've covered those different techniques, I want to go ahead and cover something that seems fairly important. when you start working with dreams, oftentimes you'll encounter some states that you are not used to. Some of these can include things like sleep paralysis or even nightmares. Many students of these practices will encounter sleep paralysis at least once in their lives. It does come with the experience of intense fear and a distinct inability to move, and the sensation of something evil or frightening in the form of an entity that wants to harm you in the room with you. So basically the hallmark of it is like you're in your bed, you can't move, there's a baddie in the room with you, it's very scary, and you're paralyzed. There's nothing you can do about it, hence the name sleep paralysis. So these things can appear in the form of demons or ghosts or home intruders, monsters, incubi, succubi, and other malevolent beings. When this happens, try to wiggle a tiny part of your body to send a signal from your brain to wake up. Even the start of those signals can help break your body through the paralysis part. There's a really interesting phenomenon with human physiology. When we dream, our brains actually do kind of paralyze our body. So when you run in your dream, you don't actually run in bed. And it's a pretty important part of dream physiology. But that same thing can lend itself to this creepy experience in sleep paralysis. So if you're able to recognize that you're having a sleep paralysis episode, remind yourself that that's what this is. It's sleep paralysis. Tell yourself that you're safe. Remind yourself that that baddie that you sense is imaginary, and that this is an ancient and timeless human experience. This has been documented for thousands of years across every culture. One of the final things that I want to talk about is reality checks. So some of the useful reality checks to initiate lucidity while you're already in a dream are going to include things like looking at clocks. This is a fun one that was mentioned in Richard Linklater's Waking Life. Oftentimes people are unable to really see legible numbers and letters while dreaming. Now, this is not a universal. This is not an all the time, every instance kind of thing. Don't take it as a given, but understand that it's a pretty strong rule of thumb. So should you want to use this technique, you can look at a clock. You can look at anything that might be print format, like a book or a sign or anything like that. And you'll be able to pick up pretty quickly whether or not it looks garbled or abstract, or it's just not making sense, or it's not lining up the way it should, or it doesn't say anything at all. One of the next things that you can use for a reality check is going to be a light switch. Just find a light switch in your environment, see if it affects the room. I did this one personally as a small child, and it was one of my first lucid dreaming experiments. I was running away from a bear rug that had come to life, and I hid in the bathroom upstairs. And I realized that I was dreaming, and I went to go hit the light switch just to check. Lo and behold, it didn't affect the room. So then I was like, "You're dreaming." And I grounded myself by looking at my hands. And then I took a cordless phone and I shoved it down the throat of the said polar bear rug, and I saved myself from being eaten. The end. Cool dream, Sarah. Anyway, as we move into more advanced parts of the workshop series, if you decide to join me for later editions, I'm going to invite you to pick up a really important book that'll serve as an invaluable resource during our explorations. So Dreaming Wide Awake by David J. Brown is a really extensive exploration of dreams and lucid dreaming, as well as psychedelia throughout history, going from shamanic and mystical cultures to modern scientific lucid dreaming research. I think that his book will serve you well in your journey should you choose this adventure. And I'll include a link where you can find his book, Dreaming Wide Awake. Thank you for joining me. That was a lot of fun. I hope that you join me for the next installations of this. If you happen to have access to virtual reality, I invite you to explore how more frequently that you play in that computer simulated art space, that it's going to train your brain to have a neural network that asks you to check reality more frequently, and that same neural network will become active and more reliable at helping you recognize when you're in a lucid dreaming state. For those of you who might not have access to a VR headset, I invite you to keep a thorough dream journal, because there's a interesting phenomenon where the more frequently you journal about your dreams, the better your dream recall will become. And not only that, but I've also noticed this really interesting correlation between the technique in which you use to remember your dreams. If you start from the most recent memory you have of the dream, where you just left off, and you move backwards to the very first memory that you have in the dream narrative, it's much, much easier to remember, as opposed to trying to remember from the beginning of your dream and then move forward in time. So what I like to do is start at the end of the dream and go backwards sequentially to the beginning, and then move from the beginning forward. That way I've combed through the dream temporally, backwards to front, and I get more details and more vividness out of the recall. And oftentimes I'll just use my phone and I'll just record a short video and then transcribe it later, during breakfast or something like that. This way I don't have to find a book, I don't have to write with my hand, I don't have to engage a bunch of physiological muscle stuff. I can literally just hit record and keep my eyes closed and whisper my dream to myself. Very useful technique. We're so lucky we live in the modern era where we can just simply do things like that, because it makes a big difference in training your brain recall for dream memories. This technique is also really useful for psychonaut visionary experiences. I really enjoyed sharing this stuff with you. I look forward to talking about it in the future too. I have some really amazing stories that I'll share. We'll do a little bit of story time, and I will give you some more in-depth background on the nature of this cool dream academy that I plan on building together with you. So again, thank you for your attention, and be sure to get your little dream journal ready and start this cool adventure. And I can't wait to hear about what you thought in the comments. Be sure to share it with your friends who also like dream theory, and I look forward to continuing our adventure. I'll talk to you next time.